All right, so did you all watch last night's final presidential debate? I hope you did. We finally got a more civil discussion between the two candidates, that's for sure. Here's a look at some of the key moments from last night.
It will go away, and as I say, we're rounding the turn, we're rounding the corner. It's going away. We're learning to live with it. We have no choice. We can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe does.
He says that we're learning to live with it. People are learning to die with it.
Please respond, and then we're going to have follow-up
questions. If this stuff is
questions.
true about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq, if this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
All right, 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage.
I'm the least racist person in this room. Nobody has done more for the black community than Donald Trump. And if you look, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history. This guy is a dog whistle about as big as a foghorn.
Okay, so DBL Nation, of course, we always want to hear your opinion. You're already begin writing in, and I'm going to get to your comments. But let's do a little poll here. Who won last night's debate, President Trump or Joe Biden? Please go to dblvote.com to weigh in. All right, Jeff, I got to start with you. What was your overall impression of this debate?
Well, first off, I want to say Kristen Welker did a fantastic job moderating yesterday. She was poignant. She's, I know the mute button helped, but I wanted to point out she did a fantastic job. I think, I would have liked some new questions, Sam. I wrote down a couple notes here. I think some new questions would have been nice. When she asked the questions, I knew the answers, what they were going to say on both sides before they answered. So I think some new questions in the mix would have been nice. Overall, I think the American public won yesterday. It was much more civil. You could hear the president talk and the former vice president talk. You could hear their thoughts being played out. But no matter what you think about Donald Trump, he raised his bar. Whatever he did last time, he raised his bar, even if it was lower than, expected. He was very considerate in the beginning. I think it got a little bit more catty in the end. They were trying to get their last blows in because they knew this was the last election. But I thought, or the last debate, I'm sorry. But I thought Donald Trump's strong point was, the reason I ran Joe was because of you. You had 47 years, 48 years, whatever it was to fix it. You had 8 years in the White House, and you didn't do anything. These things you said you were going to promise the American public you were going to do. So why should they believe you now? I think Donald Trump could hang his hat on that from last night's debate.
I feel strongly that the bar for Donald Trump, is that Lawson or Layton? Hi, cutie.
I hear them too.
He's like, who's
Where?
there? We heard them, right?
Yeah, we both heard it. Maybe it was Sophie somehow. Maybe Sophie's here, but go ahead, Tori.
They're downstairs screaming, sorry. They don't like politics either.
They don't like the debate. I thought the bar was basically the floor for Donald Trump since it was such a dumpster fire. I thought Kristen Welker won the debate by far. She was excellent. Her questions were pointed, and she kept everyone online. Joe Biden had the best debate of his entire presidential run. He was sharp. He was there. He was quick. He may have stuttered a little bit because he does have a stutter, but he had rehearsed answers that made sense. I think when he really shone the most, when was talking about those children, those 545 children who somehow we have lost their parents. When you saw Joe speak about that and say, it's not like they came with coyotes or low IQs. They came with parents, with people. And you know what? Joe Biden has lost a child. He's lost many things in his life after that accident. Then he lost Beau Biden. If anyone can understand what it's like to lose a child, it is Joe Biden. And that empathy is such a huge contrast to when you heard Donald Trump say, go ahead, let's move on. That moment for me sung for Joe Biden.
Okay, before I get Erica in, great point, Tori and Jeff, both of your points. In fact, I feel like you're echoing everything that our DBL Nation is saying, but I do want to get in some comments. LMN1503, hi, on Twitter says, this sealed my choice. Trump 4 more years with no looking back or regrets. E Black on Facebook, Biden is doom and gloom for America. Trump is hope and growth. Doretta says, so tired of the bar being so low for Donald and so high for Joe. And finally, J. David Murphy on Twitter says, the winner last night, Mr. Mute Button. Erica, what did you make of last night? Any moments stood out for you? Who do you think won the debate?
Well, I have to agree with Jeff on the point that the American public won the debate, and it's actually kind of sad that that's who won, because this was the first debate and first showing that didn't embarrass us completely as a nation. You have to consider that 50 million Americans have already voted. This is of a country of 328 million, and not all of those 328 million are actually eligible to vote. So that's a significant number going in. I don't think this debate changed who people were voting for at all. What it did was finally give us some civility. If the bar for a president is civility, then that really bothers me, because the bar that was set before would be like substandard to anyone who I would actually let in the front door of my home. I think the big moment for Joe Biden was addressing the 220,000 people who have lost their lives to COVID and talking about the plan that has not existed. That's 220,000 American families. These are people who are watching, wanting to know, are they going to lose another loved one? Many have lost multiple, and we just gloss over this like it's some kind of stat of, like, I don't know, ants or something. These are people's lives. Someone needs to be held accountable.
Yeah, and I think, Erica, too, and I'm reading the comments, a lot of people echoing your sentiment, Erica. We've almost become numb when it comes to coronavirus and those numbers. And I know a lot of us are fatigued, but when you really understand how many people have lost their lives, how many people have lost family members, how many people are out of jobs, how many people's small businesses crumbled, it should be a really sobering moment for all of us. And we almost need to be reminded. One moment that stuck out to me, and I felt like, Jeff, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I felt like you would have like leapt off your chair last night, is when Joe Biden said this. Do we have the saw in regard to? Let's take a look.
I don't look at this in terms of the way he does. Blue states and red states. They're all the United States. And look at the states that are having such a spike in the coronavirus. They're the red states, but they're all Americans. They're all American.
Yeah, it's the same time when he said, you know, I don't see red or I don't see blue. I see the United States. We're all Americans. He said that in so many words. I'm sure I botched the quote. But, Jeff, what did you make of that? I want more of that. And I was happy to see Donald Trump be more civil. But to Erica's point, there was boundaries for both of them set up last night. Would they both have been more civil and more presidential if those boundaries and rules weren't in place last night?
Well, it was funny you picked that clip, Sam, because I did almost perk up when he said that, right? Because I was like, that's exactly what I want to hear. If you go on with the rest of the clip, he goes on to point out all the red states that did that. So he did exactly what Donald Trump said in the end. He just precursored it with, I wish we were all Americans, but then he goes on to make his point about the red states. So he kind of backtracked a little bit there, or maybe the point wasn't as strong after he continued to talk. I do want to go back to what you said about people losing their jobs, losing their homes, Sam. President Trump did say one thing that he kind of glossed over and it was never mentioned again. Depression, suicide rates are all on the rise. They're skyrocketing. Nobody seems to care about those numbers at all. I mean, at least we mentioned COVID numbers. Nobody's talking about the depression rate, what it's going to be like when we come out of this thing on the other end, whenever that may be, what the numbers are going to be for suicide, the people that are going to have to use medication after this. I mean, we're going to have to psychologically build up America again, and nobody's talking about that.
Valid point. Very valid point.
I really appreciate Jeff's point, because even before COVID, you have to realize that the suicide rate in this country, we lose a commercial airliner a day. Imagine if a commercial airline plane crashed a day. That would be like major headline news. We never talk about that. And that was before the pandemic. Now we're having people who are experiencing issues because of isolation, and it's magnified. So the idea that we have 220,000 people who have been confirmed cases died of COVID. What about all of the people who are also dying of COVID because of this mental health situation? And I appreciate that Jeff brought that up. I appreciate that was identified at all, because we are in a major crisis. And to go back and forth and act like these are the two most important people in the world, they are very important. But when it really comes down to it, does it matter if nobody's here?
Fair point. Wow. Are you okay, Tori?
Yeah, I
just fell. Let's look at our megaphone. 49% believe Trump won the debate, and 51% of you believe Vice President Biden won the debate. And the viewership was down. I should say that as well. We'll be right back.